Hello, Chapter 10, Lesson 7. P&ID types and specification. P&ID types and specification. We have process unit P&ID, utility P&ID, details and typical P&IDs, distribution P&ID, pump auxiliary P&ID, package P&ID, legend and symbol P&ID. Process unit P&ID. P&ID of unit or equipment such as separator, compressor, scrubber are called process unit P&ID. Here we have a reactor. For illustration purpose, we have a P&ID of this reactor labeled R100. This is an example of unit P&ID. P&ID of utility unit are called utility P&ID. Typical illustration of the utility P&ID. Another example of utility P&ID. These are just for illustration purpose. Utility schematic comes in different forms. However, in most cases, it shows the energy distribution and the transport line with description and utilities connection using standard and code symbols. Typical P&ID, typical and detailed P&ID. Typical P&ID arrangement shows the P&ID of a unit or process plant without detailed information such as alarm and other information. We have an arrangement here for illustration purpose, an example of a typical P&ID arrangement. For illustration purpose, this is a typical P&ID. These are just for illustration purpose. However, detailed P&ID arrangement show P&ID of a unit or process plant with more detailed information such as alarm, line size, service line number, more detailed instrumentation, battery limit identification, equipment tag number, and other information. Example as illustrated in figure 10.7.1 for illustration purpose. Distribution P&ID. P&ID of federal distribution system that show the geographical plot plan of process plant are called distribution P&ID. Distribution P&ID are used in both utility and process system. For illustration purpose, this is a typical example of distribution P&ID. Distribution P&ID for each system contain information like the size, service line numbers, installation details, type of tracing and piping, material specification of the header and line on each unit. Auxiliary P&ID. P&ID of an equipment and instrumentation associated with an item of equipment are referred to as an auxiliary P&ID. For illustration purpose, we have an example of pump auxiliary P&ID. Auxiliary P&ID are prepared for rotating equipment such as compressor, turbine, pumps, and other equipment sufficiently complicated to deserve this design. On the other hand, the auxiliary formulation requirement may be displayed on the P&ID if space is available, or specifically on the utility P&ID. The auxiliary P&ID show auxiliary equipment, utility piping, instrumentation, and other information. P&ID delivered by a unit operation vendors or supplier are known as package unit P&ID. Example is the pneumatic system P&ID required for pneumatic setting, hydraulic system P&ID, VAC P&ID system, and so on. For illustration purpose, the package P&ID are marked up by contractor to show package unit tag, number of all equipment and instrument, drawing numbers assigned by contractor with letter to identify the contractor name in bracket, which is displayed against any item supplied by the contractor. This diagram is a typical pneumatic P&ID. This is a P&ID of a pneumatic setup. It's just for illustration purpose. Legend and symbol P&ID. We discussed legend and symbols diagram before. Here, the legend and symbol list sheet of a P&ID provide information about the set of shapes and symbols for documenting PFD and P&ID. It provides detailed information of all standard and code symbols used in particular project. Every P&ID standard and code provide a rule for identification and number of P&ID components, generalized symbol, equipment symbol, piping symbol, instrument symbol, and so on. Where symbols outside the standard and code are used, it must be clearly defined and displayed on the legend and symbols document or list sheet. For illustration purposes, this is a typical formation of legend and symbols diagram. This is just for an illustration purposes. I leave you here with some quick exercise. Thank you.